Hey guys, so I have a little bit of a challenge for you. I want you to turn this sphere into wood. Now, some of you out there just went and did this. You know who you are. And this is bad. Don't do this. Instead, today I'm gonna help you guys conquer your fears of procedural material making. Which I know looks scary, but it's actually really easy. We're gonna go over some basic techniques together, like masking and layering, the main nodes you should be using, and some additional tips for realism. And then at the end, we're gonna combine it all together and make this awesome metal shader. So let's get right into it. Once we're inside Blender, really quick, just go to the top left corner where it says Edit, go to Preferences, Add-ons, and type in Node Wrangler. This add-on gives tons of useful shortcuts, so make sure you have that checked. The shader editor works just like the viewport. If you want to add a new node, just press Shift-A. Or you can right-click and go to Add. Or you can go to the top left and press this Add button. But I don't think anyone actually does that. And when you pull up the Add menu, you're going to see that there's tons of nodes. But don't worry, I've set aside the most useful ones. Starting with the texture nodes. The noise texture is going to be your new best friend. It's great for mixing colors together, adding grunge and dirt, and just overall variation. And there's tons of settings you can use to further customize it, like scale for your frequency, detail for detail, and even distortion. Woo! Second, we have Voronoi textures, my personal favorite. Voronoi textures are a cell-based pattern, so they're really good for skin and organic materials. If we change this F1 setting to distance to edge, we see we can start to make a cracked rock texture, or like reptile scales. And if we lower its randomness and swap from Euclidean to Chebyshev, we can even make a tile-like pattern, all in one node. And next we have wave textures. They're great for creating lines and grid-like materials. If we distort this a bit and add some detail, we can even start to make something that looks kind of like wood. And finally, we have gradients, which are really great when we're trying to get a fade of a color or affect a specific area of our material. These work especially great with our next node, which is the color ramp. The color ramp allows for more control over our texture nodes. Here we have a basic noise texture, but if we drag these values on our color ramp, we begin to clamp our values and change the level of contrast. And if you want no blending at all, you can even just swap from linear to constant. Now you have pure black and white. With just these 4 texture nodes, their basic controls, and a color ramp, you can already see the hundreds of different textures and patterns that are possible. And once we start layering them on top of each other, we can make nearly anything we want. But before we can do that, I need to tell you guys something, and it is going to blow your mind. Are you ready? Numbers and colors are the exact same thing. Let me explain. Right now, I have a white plane, but I want to make it black. Now, typically, you would use a color node or a color ramp, or you just change this little box right here. Isn't that convenient? But we're not going to do that because we're cooler than everyone else. Instead, add a math node. Ooh, math, scary. And then make both numbers 0. All right, now 0 is a number, not a color, right? Yet if I plug this into my color input, it turns black. This 0 from our math node is being sent out as a value, a single digit of data. However, a color is known as a vector, which is a piece of data made up of 3 values or 3 numbers. I know this is a lot of numbers, guys, just hang in there. We can actually see if we hover over our yellow color input dot that those 3 values are assigned to RGB, or red, green, and blue. However, we're feeding the color only one value here when it's looking for 3. So it's putting 0 for red, green, and blue. Hence, we get black. It's the absence of all colors. If we crank this value to 1, now it's white, the combination of all colors. If you wanted to target each of these channels individually, you could add a vector math node. So now we have 3 numbers. If I slide this first one up, we start to get red. So now we can target red, green, and blue individually. We can adjust the others and then make even more colors. Now I can hear you thinking, why would I ever make my colors this way? The answer is, you wouldn't. That would be stupid. Making your colors like this would be like using the add button at the top of the shader editor. It's gross. I've told you all of this simply as an example to show you that colors and numbers are interchangeable. So now, let's try this in reverse. Here I have a mix color node, which does exactly what you think it would. Right now I'm mixing red and blue, which is being controlled by this factor value. When our factor is at 1, we have blue, and at 0, we have red. Now, I want to make a spotted pattern with red and blue, but when I try and mix them together with this factor, I just get purple. We then need this value to sometimes be 1, but also sometimes be 0. But that would mean this factor value would need to be 2 different numbers at once. We can't do that. Or can we? Well, now that we know that white is 1 and black is 0, let's just take a noise and a color ramp and plug that into our factor value. Now we have both red and blue, and this is what we call masking, where we layer or mix different elements on top of each other using black and white masks. Here's a more practical version of this. I have 2 different noises, one at a really small scale and one at a large scale. Same as our colors, we can use an additional noise as the factor and then get variation in our texture. This helps break up patterns, make things more realistic, and just add a lot more detail. This stuff doesn't just only apply to color, though. Now that we know this information, anywhere you see a number, you can now control it with a texture instead, and this is really powerful. If we apply this noise texture setup to our roughness, we can then start to get variation in how reflective it is. Textures on roughness is really great for making things look wet or worn, or even adding details like fingerprints. Now, this sphere looks really detailed. At first, you might even think, wow, that's a pretty high poly sphere. But what if I told you it wasn't? Surprised? This is called a bump map. We can take our classic noise and color ramp, but now plug it into a bump node, and then connect that to our material's normal input. Now we're creating the illusion of geometry detail when it's not even there. We can also affect things like alpha or emission with these textures to randomize transparency or how much the material glows. And that's the basics. See, all that number stuff was important. Now let's put everything we just learned to the test by creating a realistic metal shader from scratch. Now I know what you guys are thinking. Surely he's not about to throw in a promotional segment right before the part of the video that we actually care about. Wait, is he? Yup. Did you guys know that the material made in this video is going to be available for download on my Patreon page? Well, of course you didn't, but now you do. I've got materials, blend files, early access to videos, and more, all on my Patreon page for my $3 and $5 members. I also have this really fun behind-the-scenes series where I go and show a more in-depth look into my projects from my videos, giving insight into my process, as well as specialized little tutorials that you wouldn't get here on YouTube. I actually just released a super fun episode featuring work I did on a horror film, like with people and stuff. It's crazy. There will eventually be a YouTube video on that project, but if you're interested to learn more about it now, go check it out with the link down in the description. Your guys' support over there really does mean a lot to me, so thank you. Before we get started, it's always good to have references. So I just took this ice cream scoop from my kitchen, which I think has like a really cool like metal texture to it. So I'm going to take a picture of this and then drop it into Blender as an image plane so then I can see it while I work. I'm going to add in a noise texture, a color ramp, and a mix color node. If you press Ctrl, Shift, and then click on the color ramp, you can actually preview it on your object. With this noise previewed, I'm going to adjust the scale and make it a bit higher frequency to get that speckly look of the reference. Then I'm going to attach it to my mix color in the factor input, and then we'll make A and B some different colors from the image. But we need to break this up a little bit, so let's duplicate that noise setup and then make a lower scale noise to add some variation. Now, once we have 2 different noises set up, let's add a new mix color node and one final noise to act as the factor to mix our first 2 together. Once you've got those mixed, let's plug that into our first mix color node, and now we have our base color. Okay, now we've only just started, but if we do this setup like 3 more times, it's gonna get very busy in here. So let's organize a little bit. If you select all of your nodes and then press F, you can put them in like a little frame and label them. Press N and you can change the label size and even the color. Now looking back at the reference, there's tons of these like dark little speckles on this metal. So we're gonna make another noise mask, but this time clamp the values way down to get these little dots. Then we can tack on another mix color, use that speckled noise as the factor, mix black or a gray with the previous setup, then change the blend mode to multiply. This way our speckles darken the colors underneath them. Now, something really important that we completely forgot about, what kind of material is this? Oh, right, metal. Well, wouldn't you know, if we actually look on our shader, we literally have a metallic slider, and if we just adjust that, now our metal looks more like metal. Who would have seen that coming? And now comes the fun part. See these scratch marks? How are we gonna make these? Well, a couple ways, actually. Scratches are lines, and thankfully we have a texture that's really good at making lines. Remember this guy? Let's make 2 of these. Now, unlike our noise textures, we aren't going to make these different scales or frequencies. We want them to be turned different directions. So how do we rotate things? Click on your node and press Ctrl and T. Ooh, look, vectors. Hey, we know those. Now, if we rotate on the Y-axis, we can make these diagonal. Then we'll do the same for the other wave texture, but just the opposite direction. That way we'll have scratches going at different angles. Then let's just add a color ramp for both of these and make them really, really thin. But they're way too perfect, so let's add some distortion. Now this is going to take a lot of playing around with between the distortion and the 3 different detail settings that come with the wave texture. After a while though, I came up with this, and I think it's pretty good. Now, if we mix these 2 together, they overlay and make this weird like wobbly grid pattern. But we want little marks, so we need to break these lines up somehow. Add a new mix color node, noise, and color ramp for each of the wave textures. Use the noise and the color ramp to create a mask to plug into the factor of the mix color. Then just make input A our scratches or the wave texture, and then make input B black. And now we get these little clumps of broken lines. The higher frequency your noise mask is, the more little scratches you get. Then when you mix both of these together, remember to make sure that your noise masks aren't identical, otherwise they'll line up like this. I actually just offset one of the noises with a new mapping node and then changed the location. But even when we put this whole setup into like a frame, it still takes up a ton of space. So let's do something different. Select all the nodes and then press Ctrl and G and whoa, wait, where are we? Don't worry, everything didn't just get deleted. Go up to this little arrow and now you'll see that we put them in their own little node space. Nice and out of the way. But we can still access their output in our main shader editor. This is called grouping. Get it? Because G for group and yeah, you get it. Now let's use these scratches to affect our color. Add another mix color node, plug the whole main color setup into the A slot, and then white for B. Then we'll just use our scratch output as the factor, and now we can see all these little scratch marks as white lines on our base color. But let's make it even better. Add a bump node, plug the scratches into the height, and then make the distance something like 0.01. Then invert it so our scratches cut into the metal rather than like bump out like this. I'm also going to combine this with a couple of other bump maps, like a high detail noise and also a low detail one. And now our bump has a lot more variation. You can combine bumps just like colors, but be wary, when they mix together, they can lose some of their strength, so you may need to turn them all up a little bit. Then I'm just going to move all this stuff into their own little group. Now, remember when I said there's a few ways to do the scratches? I wasn't super happy with the wave generated ones since we weren't able to get these longer scratch marks. So let's try something else instead. This time, let's add a Voronoi texture. Change the F1 setting to distance to edge, then add a color ramp, and let's clamp this down and make the lines really, really thin. Then add some detail and some roughness to get this more imperfect scratched look. Then we essentially just do what we did with the wave textures. Make 2 different Voronois, mask them each with a black noise, and then mix them together. Then, once you're done, it should look something like this. This takes up a lot of space too, so I'm going to group this and then put it with the other one. I also went in and made some other random tweaks that I'm not going to show, just to get it looking how I wanted. I added some lighter colors, I felt it was a bit too dark. I also added a displacement modifier with a cloud texture, so my sphere is a bit more imperfect looking. You can actually do this within the shader editor, but that'll be for another video. We've honestly barely scratched the surface of what can be done with procedural materials. There's like so many more nodes, like ambient occlusion, displacement maps, subsurface scattering, and more that we just didn't get to, but this was the basics, the fundamentals that you need to start building materials from scratch. But if you guys would be interested in a more advanced shader tutorial, let me know down in the comments. This is our final material. And while maybe in a pinch applying some stock photo you found online to your object could work, Procedural materials just give a much higher quality and allow for so much more customizability. Anyways, hopefully you guys learned something and found this topic at least as half as interesting as I do. And if you guys followed along or made your own materials, come show them off on my Discord server. I love seeing your guys' work, and I even take the best stuff from our community and I showcase it at the end of my videos. So with that said, please enjoy the work of these very talented people, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.